Unveiling the Sinister Secrets. My 5 terrifying deliveries that exposed a haunted night. The night was a cold shiver down Sara's spine as she turned the key in her old minivan. Her second job as a delivery driver thrusting her into the heart of darkness lurking in Maplewood. Delivering pizzas shouldn't feel like this. Yet as she pulled out, shadows seemed to crawl over the perfectly manicured lawns like creeping vines, whispering her husband's name, a name that now echoed as a haunting reminder of her loss. Her stomach tightened. The very streets she once walked proudly now felt foreign, almost mocking. As she rounded the quiet cul-de-sac home to circumstances that had shattered her family, she spotted a flicker of movement at the edge of her vision, a shadow shifting just beyond the streetlight's glow. Something cold gripped her heart. Just a neighbor, she thought. Still, an overwhelming urge to flee momentarily crashed over her, but she steeled herself. She had bills to pay and 2 hungry mouths waiting for her return. Ringing the doorbell at her first stop, a chill drifted in the breeze, a soft whisper gnawing at her sanity. The door opened, but it felt like stepping into a different realm, one where whispers and warnings interlaced with the thick darkness beyond. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The next delivery held her captive in a tattered presence. The house stood like a decaying monument at the outskirts of town. The lawn bore strange markings, almost ritualistic, whispers of the abandoned Maplewood hospital drifting like shadows across her thoughts. Faint echoes sang there, unanswered cries from the desperate past. She tried to dismiss the sinking feeling clawing at her midpoint, a reminder of her husband's unknown fate. Every stop began to blur, familiar faces contorted into puzzled silhouettes. Voices rose in worried undertones, shifting seamlessly into fearful conversations as she passed. Each glare from residents seemed laced with more than just suspicion. It was lingering recognition draping over her mind like a heavy shroud. The name Jacob hung in the air around her, an echo that made her blood run cold as she approached a final delivery across town. Darkness enveloped her. The figure returned, now less a shadow and more a palpable menace, slipping between the trees with predatory grace. The hairs on her arms stood tall, heart pounding in a symphony of fear. Panic seized her as she fumbled to ring the doorbell, but before she could press down on it, an armored vehicle rolled past, lights flashing. Her instinct screamed to retreat. What was she stepping into? A voice broke through the darkness, a line drawn from thin air. "You shouldn't have come here." Sara recoiled, throat dry, mind racing with a desperate instinct. Her world was teetering on the brink, a chaotic whirlwind of unspeakable truths. She had uncovered something beyond mere whispers, far deeper than she ever expected. Was she about to uncover the deadly threads connecting her family's unraveling fate? The air thick with secrets of Maplewood left her wondering what happened after the sun set, what awaited her inside that chilling house, and what dark truth lingered in the shadows, waiting to claim its next victim. The door creaked open, revealing a dimly lit hallway that seemed to stretch endlessly into darkness. Sara's heart hammered loudly in her chest, drowning out the soft rustling of dry leaves outside. The figure that had spoken lingered just out of sight, his words still echoing in her mind. She took a hesitant step forward, compelled by a mix of fear and intrigue. "Is anyone here?" she called, her voice trembling slightly, swallowed by the eerie silence. Nothing answered but the faint whisper of the wind, mocking her courage. It felt suffocating, that emptiness, like the house itself was alive and watching. The smell of dampness and decay filled her nostrils as she crossed the threshold, a stark contrast to the scent of warm pizza that lingered in her car. She clutched the pizza box tightly, willing it to shield her from the encroaching dread. "Just deliver and leave," she muttered under her breath, the mantra meant to keep her grounded. As she moved deeper into the house, the walls closed in, the wood groaning like an old man lamenting lost days. The flickering light bulb overhead cast distorted shadows, making the angles of the room seem sharp and threatening, like they were ready to strike. Each step felt like an invitation to something forbidden, yet a strange force pulled her further inside. Then she heard a faint sound, like soft weeping, drifting from somewhere at the back of the house. It drew her like a moth to a flame. She paused, blood running cold. Memories of her husband's face flashed in her mind, moments of laughter now corrupted by the sinister whispers of Maplewood. What had happened to Jacob? Could he be connected to this place? The weeping grew louder, desperate and heart-wrenching. With a flick of her wrist, she aimed her phone's flashlight towards the sound. The light struggled against the darkness, revealing peeling wallpaper splattered with what looked hauntingly like dried blood. She fought against the bile rising in her throat, the realization that this house held secrets far worse than she had imagined. "Please help me." The voice was low, cracked, weaving itself around her like a thick fog. It was young, terrified, reaching out through the veil of despair. Against her instincts, she stepped forward, trying to find the source. The hallway twisted and turned, each corner revealing more shudder-inducing details: a crumbling family portrait, chipping paint that resembled fingers clawing at the walls. The oppressive air grew heavier as she approached a door at the end of the hall, barely standing on its hinges. "Stay away." The voice grew more frantic. Her heart raced as she thought of fleeing, yet something anchored her in place. Something deeper than fear was at play here. Was it the desire for answers? Or was it something more possessive, urging her to uncover the truth? Without thinking, she pushed the door open. The scene before her nearly shattered her sanity. An old, dusty room lay barren, except for a wooden chair in the center, bound with thick ropes. This was where the cries originated, the weeping undulating with panic. And then she saw it. An old, worn-out photo lying face down on the floor, as if hiding something forbidden. Her breath hitched as she reached down, fingers trembling in anticipation, the air crackling with chaotic energy. When she flipped it over, the chill of recognition washed over her. It was a picture of Jacob, standing there with a chilling smile, surrounded by what could only be described as his captors' faces twisted in unearthly delight. The room seemed to sway. Suddenly, the door slammed shut behind her, plunging her into utter darkness. "Guess who's next?" a voice hissed, slithering through the shadows like venom. A scream clawed its way up Sara's throat. But before she could unleash it, cold hands gripped her shoulders, squeezing tighter with mounting intensity. What awaited her in that haunted house, buried in its relentless echoes of torment? Would she have the strength to face the horrific truth, or would she succumb to the darkness that longed for her surrender? As the grip tightened, the incandescent glow of her phone flickered ominously, revealing shadows dancing ever closer. Panic surged through Sara as the shadows closed in. The grip on her shoulders tightened, cold fingers digging into her skin. She gasped, desperate for breath, battling against the rising tide of fear that threatened to drown her. Who are you?" she managed to stammer, her voice a thin wisp in the oppressive air. The response came in a soft chuckle, the sound wrapping around her like a noose. "You'll find out soon enough." The voice was familiar yet twisted, echoing with a malevolence that sank deep into her bones. Her heart pounded faster. She turned her head, trying to catch a glimpse of the figure behind her. But the darkness was absolute, swallowing her whole. The grip relaxed just enough for her to twist away, her instincts screaming to flee. She lunged toward the door, but it felt like an eternity was lost in those few frantic seconds. She pushed against the wooden door, but it wouldn't budge. The shadows seemed to mock her struggle. The weeping had transformed into low, muffled laughter, echoing throughout the room, intertwining with the sound of her own frantic breaths. Play with us," another voice sang, steeped in a child's innocence but twisted with sinister undertones. Just then, her flashlight flickered again, momentarily illuminating the chair at the center of the room. The ropes looked fresh, taut, ready to ensnare something or someone. Without thinking, she turned her phone's beam to the wall, searching for a way out. The wallpaper appeared to shift, revealing grotesque faces forming in the patterns, eyes leering at her with soulless glee. "Help me," the original voice cried out again, pulling at some buried instinct to rescue. But then a bitter laugh echoed from behind her, making her skin crawl with a surge of adrenaline. Sara slammed her shoulder against the door one more time. It finally gave way, creaking open to reveal the hall behind her. She sprinted forward, her breath hitching as she crossed the threshold, feeling the shadows claw at her back as if trying to pull her back inside. Desperate for escape, Sara bolted into the hall, but the house seemed endless, the doors and corners shifting, as if it conspired against her escape. The whispers grew louder, calling her name, taunting her memories of Jacob, layering guilt upon her already fractured heart. "Stop! Just leave me alone," she shouted into the dimness, hoping to drown out the voices. But as she rounded a corner, a figure appeared before her, a twisted silhouette backlit by the feeble light from her phone. She froze, her pulse racing wildly. The features were indistinct, but she could make out a smile, a grin growing wider, teeth glistening in the light. "Did you miss me?" It whispered, voice dripping with malicious delight as terror clawed at her throat. A memory fractured through her mind, Jacob laughing, his voice now replaced by this dark imitation. The urge to flee collided with the wish to confront whatever horror lay ahead. "You shouldn't have come here, Sara," the figure hissed, beginning to step closer, its limbs distorting, drawing nearer with a creeping slowness, as though savoring her terror with no other choice. She surged forward, relying on instincts she never knew she had. Her feet pounded against the aged wood, determination fueling her every step. If she could just make it to the front door. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed through the house, shaking the very foundation. A deep rumble of laughter followed, filling the air with an overwhelming sense of doom. Sara stumbled, nearly losing her footing. Was it too late? Would she reach the threshold before whatever hunted her dragged her back into the abyss? As the unmistakable voice of Jacob echoed in her mind, a chilling thought struck her. What if the secrets that lay captive in this house had already sacrificed him? She sprinted toward the fading light, heart hammering, knowing that what she discovered on the other side of that door could change everything. What other horrors waited beyond the threshold, lurking in the shadows of inevitability? Would truth unveil deliverance or bind her to this nightmare forever? The light from her phone flickered again, casting distorted shadows on the walls, elongating the grotesque faces that seemed to come alive with each flicker. Sara pushed through the front door's frame, praying it would open into the safety of the outside world. But it didn't. Instead, she stumbled into an unending corridor, the chill of despair wrapping tighter around her throat. No, this can't be happening," she gasped, her breath emerging in frantic puffs that sounded almost comedic in their desperation. The laughter behind her morphed into a symphony of taunts, mingling with shrilly voices of children that drew nearer, closer, and closer. "Play with us, Sara." She whirled around, scanning her dark surroundings. The walls of the corridor seemed to breathe, expanding and contracting, a living entity that wanted to suffocate her. She could hear the creaking of the very floors, whispering secrets of lost souls who wandered these halls before her. "Please," she begged the darkness, "I just want to go home." In response, the air thickened, wrapping around her like fog, choking the hope out of her. Then, with a violent jolt, the laughter exploded into an avalanche of echoing giggles, reverberating off the walls like a twisted game. It swirled around her mind, drowning her thoughts. But in the cacophony, a single voice emerged, deep, familiar, and chilling to her core. "Why didn't you save me, Sara?" it called out, sending icy fingers crawling down her spine. "Jacob?" she whispered. The name reverberated in the silence, ricocheting off the walls and exploding into shadows that danced wildly around her. Fear surged, tearing her legs from their frozen state. She pressed onward, every step feeling like a march toward her own judgment. "Help me," the plea had an insistent vibration, like a song stuck in her head. Her heart raced again, every beat echoing in her ears. Hadn't she been down this corridor before? Each turn seemed achingly familiar, as if she were trapped in a loop of her own memories that she desperately didn't want to confront as she ran. Doors began to fly open alongside her, revealing nightmarish visions, shadows of people who used to fill these rooms, faces distorted, mouths open but silent. They seemed to reach for her, but the darkness that bound them bound her too. Fearing they would pull her inside, she stumbled into another flickering light coming from the end of the corridor. "Help me," she grasped the doorknob, its coldness shocking her system. With a turn and a desperate shove, she burst into the room. The air was stale and oppressive, heavy with the scent of decay. Before her was a small child, sitting cross-legged in the center of the room, hands clenched in a tight fist. Its eyes were hollow but fixed on Sara, reflections of despair she recognized all too well. "Did you bring it?" the child asked, voice an eerie echo of innocence twisted by age. "Did you bring us what we want?" "What do you want?" Sara gasped, glancing frantically around, searching for an escape. "The price of truth," the child hissed, laughter bubbling up, bouncing against the walls like a taunt. Jacob's price. Panic clawed at Sara's throat again, threatening to choke her. The laughter morphed into a haunting chorus, surrounding her like a stifling cloak. Was this what those shadows had meant? What had they stolen from her? "Who are you?" she shrieked, trying to keep her voice even against the rising tide of terror. "Someone who knows everything you've lost." The answer came slithering through the air as the walls creaked, the shadows receding momentarily to reveal the truth behind the laughter. A mirror showing moments of betrayal, anger, and fear. Sara's heart raced, the images reflecting in her mind. She hadn't just lost Jacob. She'd failed him. As the realization struck, the mirror shattered, leaving her grappling with the darkness that now engulfed her whole. Would she have the courage to face what was truly haunting her? Or would the shadows that fed on her guilt drag her deeper into their twisted game? The light flickered and she could feel the grip of those cold fingers tightening around her heart, squeezing tighter as the echoes of laughter grew louder, more insistent. What price would she pay for her truth? The shattering of the mirror sent shards of glass cascading like sharp rain, embedding themselves into the air around her. A fog of terror enveloped Sara, distorting the room and its corners. As the child's laughter faded, a new sound emerged, an ominous thrumming that felt like a heartbeat, pulsing from behind her, resonating through the walls she was already growing to despise. She turned, eyes darting to where the echoes of Jacob's voice once hovered. "Help me," was now accompanied by something more disturbing, urgent whispers that curled like smoke in her ears. "You must choose." They dripped with malevolence, chilling the blood in her veins. "Choose? Choose what?" she screamed, her voice nearly lost to the cacophony that swirled around her. In one horrifying second, she felt the floor shift beneath her feet, folding into itself like a trap. Shadows skittered along the edges of her vision, taunting her. The child was no longer just sitting. It was rising, gliding towards her with haunting grace, long fingers reaching out. "Your truth demands a sacrifice, Sara. What will you give up?" Her breath caught in her throat. Panic surged anew. This was a twisted game, a negotiation with darkness. But what could she possibly offer? All she ever had was regret. Suddenly, flashes of her past flickered before her. Jacob's smiling laughter, a promise that now felt hollow and far away. "No, I won't play this game," she cried. The walls trembled, echoing her defiance, but it was fizzling atop layers of despair. "You already have," the child cooed, its voice dripping with an unsettling sweetness. "Your screams are music. Your nightmares are our playground." Sara's eyes widened as shadows in every corner twitched and writhed, looming closer. She felt the weight of shame press down upon her like a thick fog. "Stop it. I didn't mean to. But the child only cocked its head, a sick grin stretching across its face. "Just what? Let him die? Let the truth rot within you?" The laughter rippled back, a wave crashing over her consciousness. It drowned her thoughts, leaving only echoes of Jacob's name in a cruel melody. She clenched her fists, stifling the urge to cry. With every haunting chuckle, the emptiness gnawed harder at her heart. "What do you want from me?" she screamed again, desperation clawing her voice. "RW," in response. The walls began to bleed shadows, a dark torrent spiraling around her. It pressed down, suffocating her resolve, and the child seemed to grow larger, its dark eyes glistening with an insatiable hunger. Sacrifice will set you free, dear Sara. Will it be your happiness, your memories, or perhaps it leaned closer, its breath rancid like spoiled fruit. Jacob's life? Time shattered like the glass again, leaving her spinning. The world slowed, every tick of the clock resonating painfully in her chest. I can't choose, she whispered, the tears pooling in her eyes now. The darkness tightened its grip, pulling her down toward an endless abyss filled with whispers of the damned. The air thickened, crawling with icy despair. It was a decision she fought against, yet it was forced upon her. All she wanted was to run. Suddenly, a surge of anger erupted. No, I will not choose. I will save him. The declaration rang out, clear and defiant in the choking dark. With that, every shadow recoiled, the childish smile fading as the child hissed, "Then you will pay the ultimate price." The room cracked and split as a howl of fury filled the air. Sara felt the ground beneath her lurch, tilting violently. Outside the broken doors, the light flickered again, a siren-esque call shimmering just out of reach. "Jacob, I'm coming," she screamed. Even as the darkness roared around her, she lunged toward the exit. A shadow lunged for her, a glimpse of what could be lost if she failed. Would she be able to save Jacob, even at the cost of destroying herself? With every second she hesitated. The price of truth loomed larger, twisting closer. The walls groaned as Sara stumbled forward, driven by a primal instinct to escape. The moment she reached for the door, a burst of cold air slammed into her like a tidal wave, forcing her to brace against the frame. It was as if the very house itself was rejecting her desperate attempt at freedom. "Stop!" the child's voice screamed, and it echoed around her like a thunderclap. It was no longer sweet. It was furious, guttural, as if an ancient force awoke from slumber. Her heart raced, each beat pounding in contrast to the frantic whispers swirling all around her. She could see the door, its peeling paint flaking and curling away. With every heartbeat, it seemed to shimmer, vulnerable and inviting. Yet, behind her, the shadows pressed close, stretching out fingers that snaked around her legs. Sara felt the icy touch grasp at her, each slimy tendril whispering her failures, dredging up memories that clawed at her sanity. "Choose, Sara. Choose now." The child slid to the ground with a predatory smile, the gleam of its eyes illuminated by the darkness surrounding it. "He will pay the price if you don't." "Jacob, I will save you." The words spilled from her lips, filled with a wave of determination. The shadows snarled, their whispers intensifying, weaving in and out of her consciousness. They murmured secrets she never wanted to hear, shattering truths about the moments she ignored, the choices that burdened her heart. Savage, ugly truths. "You are the architect of your own ruin," they taunted. The relentless urging to look back and confront her life's darkest corners threatened to draw her back into despair. "No," she cried, forcing her footing to stay rooted. The door ahead seemed to scream her name now, its hollow wood beckoning with deceptive warmth. The room twisted, colors bleeding together in confusion as the heartbeat around her grew louder. "Dare to enter?" The child's laughter ricocheted, ringing sharper, echoed by sinister promises. "Let the shadows decide what to take from you. Happiness, freedom, or your precious Jacob. What are you willing to abandon?" A primal fear sparked within her. Did she even know what she would be leaving behind? Every second pulsed with torment. The shadows flickered in anticipation. "I refuse," she whispered fiercely, her breath shaking. "You have no power over me." Strength surged as she pulled one foot back from the darkness, pushing herself forward to grab the doorknob. It was cold yet oddly inviting, sending jolts of energy through her veins. In a flash of resolve, Sara twisted the knob. It didn't budge. Panic flooded through her. It was locked tight. She pounded her hands against the door, screaming, "Let me out!" A gust of laughter erupted, more derisive, pouring through the cracks. "You are chained to your decisions, dear one. The truth does not yield." Suddenly, The floor trembled beneath her feet. A fissure split the ground wide open, sending chills racing up her spine. Sara. A voice echoed, a fragmented plea from Jacob. Jacob, where are you? She cried, thrashing against the resistance pulling her back into the darkness. A vision, then a glimmer of Jacob, his eyes wide with fear, trapped in shadows wreathing around him, sinking into an abyss. Time froze. The child's laughter morphed into a low growl, threatening to swallow her whole. You have but moments to choose. Whichever you leave behind will become their prison. As the shadows sucked at her heels, clawing relentlessly, one desperate thought ignited. I'll find a way. I will not leave you. Trepidation curled through her stomach. She could almost taste the familiar scent of Jacob, could feel his warmth against her skin. The echoes of her choices gerbed at her fingertips, dripping into a shadowy abyss of despair that threatened to envelop them both. Uncertainty hung heavy. If she couldn't break through, then all of this might be for nothing. Time is slipping away, Sara, the child crooned, its smile glinting in the dark. With one last glance back, Sara steeled her resolve and screamed, I will save him. Then silence as the room shifted violently, the weight of her decision crashing down like a never-ending wave. Would she shatter under the weight of what awaited her, or rise from the depths of despair? The answer loomed precariously close. Sara's world twisted in on itself, the air thick with suffocating dread. The silence was deafening. The walls bled shadows that pulsed with a malevolence she could barely comprehend. She felt them pulling, tugging at the edges of her mind, threatening to unravel her sanity. Jacob, she cried again, her voice cracking, breaking under the weight of her fear. The darkness screamed back ghastly laughter, distorted and layered, creeping into the very marrow of her bones. Suddenly, a soft light flickered in the distance, like a lone star in an endless night. She squinted against the void, straining to see if it was real. With each step forward, the shadows coiled tighter, a creeping dread lacing her spine. Leave now or lose him forever. The child's voice echoed, weaving like a sinister chant. The very walls seemed to respond, shuddering as if alive, warning her to turn back. Desperation fueled her feet as she edged closer to the flickering light, praying it would lead her to Jacob. What kind of place was this? Each detail clawed at her as she advanced, the blackness around her writhing a pit of despair eager to consume her. Just as she thought she could reach it, the ground beneath her shifted violently, sending her sprawling. She landed hard, gasping, the cold floor biting into her. The shadows surged around her, engulfing her limbs, pulling her deeper into their embrace. No, she shrieked, thrashing, intensifying the shadow's grip. I won't give in. Yet her resolve felt feeble against the suffocating pressure. It promised pain like she had never known, and inside the shroud of darkness, that child's laughter cut through her sharp and mocking. Foolish girl, struggle all you want. You are bound by your own choices. Each word reverberated through her mind, amplifying her panic. What did it mean? Which choices? Images flashed before her eyes, conversations left unsaid, chances ignored, the love she hadn't shown. The pain of regret weighed heavy, stinging like acid. The shadows wove her fears into a tapestry, each strand a reminder of her failures, each whisper a shackle chaining her to the past. Look back, Sara. The boy's voice twisted, pleading yet cruel. You can't escape what you did. You're already lost. Sara squeezed her eyes shut, forcing herself to focus on Jacob. He needs me, she chanted like a mantra, the despair threatening to swallow her whole. With a sudden surge of defiance, she yanked at the shadows, pulling with all her might as if she could somehow tear them apart. I won't let you take him. I am not done fighting. For a heart-stopping moment, the veil of darkness hesitated, shuddering in response to her determination. A flicker of clarity sliced through the cacophony, a shivering memory tough as nails surfaced. The day she promised Jacob she'd always protect him. The shadows faltered briefly, as if contemplating her words. Sara seized the opportunity, fueled by an unyielding hope that twisted through her like a flame. I will save him. I will break free. A loud crack filled the air as the very core of the house reacted. The ground trembled again, more forcefully this time, as cracks shattered the darkness around her. Light poured in through the fissures, illuminating the swirling shadows and dispersing some of their menace. But the chill didn't fade. Instead, it morphed into something darker, a tangible hunger drawing nearer, waiting for her to slip. Stop, Sara. You think you know what you want? The child's smirk twisted into a snarl. You'll choose or I'll choose for you. What more could be taken from her? She had nothing left to give, except for one thing. Jacob, she screamed, the name erupting from her throat as something primal pushed her forward. With renewed will, she aimed for the light, racing toward whatever lay on the other side. Each step pushed back the darkness, but it slithered closer, whispering, taunting. Would she reach her brother, or would darkness consume her first? As she leapt toward freedom, the shadows lashed out, vengeful and hungry. Sara felt the very fabric of her soul fray as she flew toward the light. The shadows clawed at her ankles, sinking their cold tendrils into her skin. They whispered lies, promises of safety if only she'd surrender. Give in, Sara. You can't fight what you are. Her heart raced, pounding against her ribcage like a frantic bird desperate to escape. The moment felt stretched, each breath skewed, as if time held its breath too. The flickering light grew closer, yet the darkness lunged eagerly, determined to drown her hopes in despair. With one last push, she broke through the threshold of light and stumbled into an open space. Weak, disoriented, she collapsed to the ground, gasping for air. But this air held a metallic taste, laced with the acrid scent of decay, binding her reality in a sickening chain. She blinked against the harsh glow, taking in her surroundings. The walls were cracked, splintered with exhaling stale memories of those trapped before her. Shadows danced along the edges, mocking her escape, only to twist into faces she recognized, all the faces she tried to forget. Jacob S. was among them, pleading silently, his eyes wide and terrified. Help me! The boy's face flickered, disappearing behind a wall of darkness. The flickering light around her dimmed, casting her deeper into dread. Sara. His voice echoed, momentarily grounding her. I'm here, she shouted, scrambling to her feet. But as she stumbled, fingers brushed against cold glass. A picture frame hung askew on the wall, revealing a snapshot from her past. In it, a younger Sara and Jacob stood proudly with smiles carved into their cheeks. Their childhood innocence now felt like a distant echo, fading quicker than the light. The sheer contrast of their carefree days against the present gnawed at her. But she had to focus, had to find him. Jacob, she cried, trying to shatter the spell of doubt that thickened every word. She pressed forward, fists clenched tight, determination coiling within. Suddenly, the shadows surged, reforming into grotesque shapes that clawed for her, their faces twisting into anguished masks, tormenting her with each ghostly wail. You should have listened. You brought this upon yourself. Shut up, she screamed, cringing as their whispers wound tighter around her, further darkening the light. It felt like a physical weight pressing down, clamping harder as if wanting to swallow her whole. The air became unsteady. Each breath rattled, a reminder that she was still trapped in this unending nightmare. But she remembered the light. Jacob needs me, Sara shouted, pushing against the darkness with ferocity born from survival. I will protect him. As she spoke, the shadows recoiled ever so slightly. For an ephemeral moment, the pain on their faces shimmered with shock and uncertainty. It was enough to spark a fuse in her resolve. It's not too late, she pressed, and the words echoed back from the echoing depths of the void. I can still save him. The ground shook under her feet, unsettling the shadows that wriggled like greasy worms. With a roaring sound, the darkness began to split, revealing a staircase carved from the shadows. It descended deeper, spiraling down into an abyss. Dread coiled in her belly. She could feel the uncertainty, the moral weight sharp as a knife. Where would it lead? Was it a path to Jacob? Or to more darkness? As the shadows whispered about her past failures, Sara felt a pulse of adrenaline, anchoring her. She felt both the pull to move forward and the pain of her choices. A flicker of guilt gnawed at her, but she couldn't allow it to overtake her. After a deep breath, she stepped onto the staircase, each step echoing through the void with her pounding heart. The shadows hissed, furious at her defiance. "Choose, Sara," it echoed, a child's voice growing more furious, demanding an answer. "Choose wisely." With every wavering step, she felt the weight of fate on her shoulders. What lay below? Each step was a new weight, each answer a step deeper into the unknown. Would she sacrifice everything to save her brother? As the shadows loomed larger, thick with wrath, she knew the choice was only growing more dire. And somewhere in their depths, Jacob was waiting. What choice would she face next? And would she be able to pull her brother from the depths of despair? Or would she plunge into darkness along with him? The staircase felt alive, twisting under her weight, sending shivers up her spine. With every creaking step, Sara feared the shadows would collapse around her. Each breath was a battle. The air thickened with despair, and the quiet echoed with the calls of those lost. A low murmur began to fill the space. "Just go back. It's too late. You won't find him down there." The shadows twisted and wailed, their voices blending into a cacophony of doubt. She pressed on, determined, grasping each banister, trying to breathe through the energy that pulled at her limbs. "What if I am too late?" she whispered to herself, a question carving into her resolve. The memory of Jacob's face, bright and shining through their childhood, felt like a distant star in a dark sky. Yet even in the memory's warmth, the icy grip of fear jolted through her. How could she save him if the darkness continued to envelop her? The shadows grew restless, crawling closer, slick against her skin like oil. "We know your secrets, Sara," they hissed, their breath rancid and sour. "You carry their weight, the guilt. You want to save him, but you only bring misery." Sara's fists clenched tighter. "You're wrong." But was she? The memories of the last time she left Jacob behind gnawed at her heart. The unguarded moment that changed everything. If only she had stayed, if only she hadn't listened to the others. A quick flash of her brother's terrified eyes flooded her mind. "What do I have to do?" she screamed, against the tightness in her throat, against the tears that threatened to spill. "What do I have to sacrifice?" The shadows paused, their grasp flickering. Sara's heart raced. This was her moment. The chaotic whispers turned almost still, giving her space to breathe and think. "Sacrifice," they taunted back. "What is the price, dear Sara? How far are you willing to plunge?" That single word echoed in her mind like a gunshot. What was she willing to give? Her past choices? A piece of her heart? Her very soul? She hesitated, the weight of the question heavy like iron chains. And then the darkness shifted. The staircase widened, as though offering her a glimpse ahead beyond the shadows. A faint glow appeared, illuminating a corridor stained in blood. The shadows raged anew. "Turn back. Don't go. The truth awaits." But it isn't pretty. Fueled by desperation, she took a step toward the light, her instincts sharpening. It was now or never. She cared for Jacob, and if he was beneath the darkness, she would face whatever horrors awaited her. But as she approached, the corridor seemed to stretch, the light winking like a firefly, pulling her forward with an unbearable gravity. A chill washed over her as she reached toward the edges of the glowing entrance, her fingers brushing against the coolness of the light. Then it happened. A metallic voice, deeper than the shadows, resonated from the depths, rumbling through the hollow space. "Welcome, Sara. Are you ready to face what you have done?" Panic gripped her. "What I have done," she stammered, her breaths coming out jagged. From the light emerged a familiar silhouette, cloaked in mist. It became clearer, and her stomach dropped, none other than herself at a younger age, the careless laughter now replaced by haunting eyes. "Who are you?" she whispered. With a slow, deliberate smile, the younger version spoke. "I'm you. The you who didn't care. The you who has come to find the truth." Crawling dread filled the air. The shadows shrieked, loathing the light. "Choose, Sara," they echoed. "Will you face the sins of your past?" The corridor pulsed with energy, and she realized all that she held dear hinged on confronting herself. Could she bear the truth? Taking a steadying breath, she stepped forward. In a blink, the darkness surged around her, howling, enveloping her in an icy grip. The flickering light dimmed. "Are you ready for what lies beneath?" With her heart pounding, Sara took one last step into the reflection of the girl she had once been. And then silence. What awaited Sara in that pitch-black silence? Would she find the truth she feared most, or something far worse? The darkness enveloped Sara completely, swallowing her whole. In that intimate, chilling moment, the world beyond faded away. Time seemed irrelevant, stretching like a rubber band ready to snap. As she stood face to face with her younger self, memories flickered through her mind like an old film reel, some tender, others tormenting. "Why are you here?" The younger Sara's voice was both a mirror and a knife. "To remember what you've lost, or to flee from what you never wanted to face." "I need to save Jacob," Sara pleaded, desperation spilling into her trembling words. "I want to fix this. Everything." She could feel the shadows shift, tightening their grip around her, like snakes weaving stories of her failures and regrets. The younger version pointed an accusatory finger, her face contorting in anguish. "You never listened. You let fear decide your choices when you could have been brave. Now you'll lose him forever because of it." The chunks of truth sliced through the darkness. Sara's heart pounded like a drum echoing through an empty hall. She thought of Jacob's bright smile, carefree laughs, and the bonds that once felt unbreakable. She thought of the times she had chosen to walk away, believing the lies that whispered through her heart that she was protecting him by distancing herself. How had she let those moments slip through her fingers like grains of sand? The air thickened, suffocating her resolve, but Sara snapped back to the weight of her purpose. "I won back down," she declared, amplifying her spirit against the shadow's dark symphony. "He needs me." The younger Sara watched her with calculating eyes, the shadows swirling around their feet, craving the tension built from truth. "What is the price?" she challenged, the words dripping with bitterness. "What will you give up to save him?" "I'll give anything. I'll face myself. I'll face the truth." Sara felt a surge of defiance swell inside. The fear of losing Jacob fueled her fire. She gritted her teeth, embracing the weight of her past choices. "I wasn't brave enough to protect him before, but I will not allow that to happen again." "Prove it. Show the darkness that you are willing to sacrifice." The younger Sara taunted, stepping back to open a shimmering portal behind her. Sara stepped forward, propelled by determination. The shadows pulsed with electric anguish. Insight flashed through her, illuminating the darker corners of her past. "I sacrificed my love. I sacrificed the truth for comfort. No more." As the portal opened wider, the house creaked, groaning under the strain. Bursting forth from the darkness swirled visions of her fears, fragments of her life playing out like an epic gone wrong. Each moment dragged her deeper into the lake of what could have been. The laughter echoed. She could see Jacob, the little boy who looked up to her, his hopeful eyes now shadowed by fear. "I will learn," she whispered to the void, summoning every ounce of bravery, each scar decorating her heart, telling the tale of a survivor. She gathered the fragments of her courage and sent them through the portal to confront her fears. In a blinding flash, the light returned like a phoenix, bursting through shackles that bound her heart. Colors erupted around her: joy, pain, every memory igniting her spirit with undeniable truth. The shadows lunged for her, wailing against the light, for in that illumination came an acceptance of her imperfections and an unwavering will to fight. As Sara felt the shadows recede in horror, she grasped the image of Jacob, pulling it into focus before her. "I will not lose you. I will make it right," she cried, shattering the glass that bound her to this nightmare. The world transformed with each step as her younger self faded into whispers, releasing the centuries-old pain and delusion embedded in the darkness. With every fragment cast aside, Sara felt lighter, liberated. She ran now, each stride urging her forward, the house shaking around her like it would collapse, acknowledging her defiance. Bursting through the remnants of shadow, she found herself back at the front door. Its peeling paint now inviting sunshine pouring in. As she stepped outside, the crisp, fresh air enveloped her, wildflowers blooming along the pathway, vibrant hues reclaiming the charred remnants of despair. And then she spotted him, Jacob, standing just a few feet away, eyes wide but alive. Tears blurred her vision as relief washed over her. She rushed forward, wrapping him in her embrace, sobs escaping like a tide breaking through. "I'm so sorry. I won't let you go again. I will always protect you," she vowed, holding him close, heart racing as if it might burst from the joy. The shadows trembled behind her, vanishing onto the endless horizon of what once was, leaving only echoes of their darkness behind. She had faced her fears, lost and found herself along the way, and now Sara stood her brother safe in her arms, a testament to resilience in the face of despair. A new dawn had broken over Maplewood, and as she held Jacob, the weight of the past finally lifted. She knew their journey ahead would be far from easy, but together they would reclaim the joy that belonged to them. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that could grip your heart and soul. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm and support the journey we share. Don't hold back, flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this wild conclusion. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this powerful end. It's time to show how much this community means and ensure you're there for every new chapter.